friends, Kathy Lanzalaco here for another episode of Inspire Careers Spotlight on Recruiting, the video podcast series where I pull back the curtain a bit and talk to recruiters and owners of recruiting firms to find out a little bit more about their businesses, find out what happens behind the scenes, to give job seekers some insider tips into how best to interact with recruiters and to position themselves for new career opportunities. I'm happy to welcome my guest today is Jim Cipriani Jr. Hi, Jim, founder and president of Systems Personnel. How are you today?
Good. How about you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much. Jim is the founder and president of Systems Personnel, a multi-million-dollar recruiting and placement agency. And that's important to understand scope, folks. And the really cool thing, and I think Jim will tell us a little bit about this, is how the company was founded with him and his dad in his basement. So for all of you folks out there who are thinking about a side hustle and you're thinking about starting your own business, it can be done. And Jim will give us some insights into that. But it's an exciting time in the career services industry. And I know Jim's business is just hopping. So he's an important matchmaker between his clients, the employers, and between job seekers. So welcome, Jim.
Thanks for having me, Kathy.
Yeah. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit of that excellent story about you and your dad starting out from scratch and getting the business going.
Yeah, real fortunate, right? So November 23rd, 1996, we started Systems Personnel. We're coming up on our 25th anniversary next month, we're glad to say. And from the very get-go, we're in the business. Our mission is improving lives through employment. So we really care about doing what's right for the candidates that we interact with and the clients that we put people to work for. And whether we make a commission off it or any money off it or not, we believe that every person who interacts with us should learn or grow or get better in some way. So if a candidate maybe we can't place or into one of our clients, it doesn't mean we're not going to help that person with resume tips, interviewing tips, even the use of our contacts if we can. All gratis, we're glad to do it. What comes around goes around. And we firmly believe here that a rising tide raises all ships. So we want to build a healthier ecosystem here in Buffalo. And we're here to help. So that's really kind of us in a nutshell.
I appreciate that. I always say that serve first, sell second, everything comes along. And you also mentioned critically important, and job seekers need to hear this when you mentioned before about your network, who can you connect them with, activating their own network, responding and asking to be part of other people's and asking for connections. That is so much about job search, so much about career advancement, even if you're not changing jobs. Really, I mean, the old saying about who you know is important, but more importantly, it's what you do with that information and how you share with that person and exactly what energy you can exchange with them to help further your goals, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. And if candidates, job seekers can use our network to benefit themselves, that's great. If we can make something from it, wonderful. If not, we hope that what comes around goes around, and that's really what life's all about. And that's what we're here to do at Systems Personnel.
All right, let's start there then. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your business from the standpoint of some of the major categories that you service, the industry, so that people have a sense of what you specialize in?
Okay, fair enough. So I think maybe even to start at quite a little bit higher level is that about half of our business is putting candidates and job seekers directly to work at our clients. And the other half of our business is employing them ourselves and leasing them out on a contract or temporary basis to our clients. So when we say that we're a recruiting and staffing company, that's what we mean. And it's equally important for us to put people to work, no matter if they're working for us and working on site or on behalf of our clients or working directly for our clients in general. So, but the reason that the job seekers have been coming to us for over 25 years now is because 80% of our jobs that we have listed and that we're working on our site are not available on public job sites. And that's incredibly important. I think you talk about a network. We're talking about, building and utilizing a private network of people who are giving us jobs that the public never sees. So, if you're good and if you're in Systems Personnel's wheelhouse, which is basically information technology, finance, human resources, and supply chain, you I guess it sounds like a commercial, but you behoove yourself to keep in touch with us, because if not, you're going to miss out on 80% of those great jobs we recruit for that nobody else ever sees.
Hidden job market, folks. Clients I work with, I talk about that all the time. Everybody seems to, actually everybody, but many people seem to think that every job posted is on Indeed, every job available is on LinkedIn. It is not the case, and relationships still govern how people are considered for roles. And unless you're talking to someone like Jim, you're not going to have that insight into these roles that are being held back from the general public for multiple reasons, right? For multiple reasons, but the recruiters are that gateway into many of these jobs. So that's a really important point, Jim. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Well, interestingly as well is that, if you're searching for a job the same way that everybody else is, how in the world do you expect to differentiate yourself, Kathy? So what, I'm gonna beat up Indeed if I'm okay to do it. But 93% of the people who apply for a job on Indeed hear nothing, not even no. And that's the way that people are searching. So the use of an agency, if you are qualified and if your agency matches your specialty job search, it's incredibly important, I think. Now, as agencies, we also don't like it when candidates are working with too many agencies. It just muddies the water a little bit. So sure. Every person who has an aspiring career needs a really good agency partner who specializes in their field and can broaden their network and open up doors and put their resume on the desk of decision makers. That's what we are founded on. That's the service that we give to our candidates. Now, on the client side, they have access to 25 years worth of Buffalo candidates. I was in a leadership meeting today. We have just under 200,000 candidates in our proprietary database. We've been doing this a long time. So, when you're a client and you go to look for a candidate, where are you going? Are you doing it the same way everybody else is? Are you going up on LinkedIn? Well, last time I looked, all of my clients have access to LinkedIn. So it works both ways. The clients are getting access to candidates that they wouldn't otherwise, and passive candidates. And that's how we have been able to stay in business for as long as we have.
So Jim, I'm glad you said that, because it also brings up the point that just if someone reaches out to you today and you don't have an opportunity for them available today, that is not to say that in that huge proprietary database, you'll put their information in there, and tomorrow, the next day, the next month, you may have an opportunity for them then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's about building that relationship with your recruiter and your agency to be able to really help them get to know you best, so that they know what you're looking for, what you're capable of, so they can find the right employer, and conversely, to make sure that the employer gets the right person that they're looking for.
Yeah, it's a fine line that the candidate really needs to walk. It behooves the candidates to remain germane and relevant to their agency partners, but you can't also bug them, right? Because our service is free to the candidates. Our clients pay our fee, and so it's a matter of, do I trust the recruiter to dig me out of his database, or should I keep in touch with the recruiter? What we recommend is that people bookmark our job site. I can share that later if you want. Mm-hmm. And if you're in our world, then those jobs that may be unavailable, the hidden job market that might be unavailable, could show up there. So that's how the partnership kind of needs to work, in my estimation.
Yeah, it's a great point too. Establishing that balance. Job seekers need to take responsibility for themselves to establish these relationships, to nurture the relationships. The other thing that I've heard from other recruiters that I'm speaking with too is, there's a lot of smack going on LinkedIn about recruiters ghosting people, but the truth is the pendulum swings both ways, and that job candidates really have to make sure that they are responding when they are spoken to, right? So if they are being reached out to by a recruiter and you're having a conversation, not to ghost them. That is your professional, that's your professional network as well as your reputation. And job seekers need to understand that if someone has reached out to them and you're not interested, then, tell them thank you, but no thank you. And reaching out and keeping that relationship strong. It's not just about waiting for the recruiting agency to come back and, hopefully place you one day. I mean, they have to keep those lines of communication open while remaining professional and not calling you every day either. I mean, to your point, there is that great balance.
Fair enough.
If you had one tip that you wanted to share with job seekers today, there's this huge talk about the great resignation and everything that's happening out there in this post-COVID job market. What would be the one thing that you might share with the people that come to you, some inside tip that you're giving people that you find yourself maybe that you didn't give last year, but things have changed? What would be that one thing that you tell people, Jim?
It's interesting. It may seem counterintuitive for a recruiter to say this, but our team is all trained this way. And I think we all believe this, is that just because you're seeing more job opportunities dangled in front of you doesn't mean that you shouldn't give your current employer the opportunity to fulfill your needs. Too often, in my estimation, having done this for as long as I have, candidates, job seekers will go ahead and just pull up, go interview, and leave an employer. If your employer has paid your salary, if your employer has trained you, and if you are unhappy at your employer, you should give your employer the right of first refusal to make things better. And if they can't, then you should embark on a serious job search.
I think that's a great point, Jim. So many people are just ready to cut ties and move on. And I think that's a hesitancy of people for, potential conflict. They don't want to have hard conversations sometimes, whether it's conversations about money, whether it's about culture, whether it is about recent job responsibilities that have changed. Everybody seems to be doing more with less. I find overall that employers do want to make their people happy. If they can't, they will, or they won't if they can't. But I also think that there are some toxic environments. But before people start throwing around the word toxic, make sure that you are having that conversation with your employer. If someone can help, I'm sure in most cases that they want to, particularly if you put a lot of time into that company. But there are times it's absolutely appropriate for a job search. If you find that there really is not any more developmental opportunities for you, you've achieved everything that you wanted to do at an organization, there's nowhere else to go. Perhaps the budget isn't there to pay you what you believe that you're worth. There's a lot of great reasons, but I think that's a really important tip. Thank you for sharing that, Jim.
When you're a leader yourself, you most understand that tip. You would wish that your team members, if they were valued and slightly disgruntled, would give you a heads up and an opportunity to improve it. And in the end, if you just go out and seek another opportunity, I don't know the statistics exactly, but I think far too many job seekers are accepting counter offers and staying at their employer. That's a huge mistake. So too many job seekers are going out, finding another opportunity, threatening to quit their employer, and then accepting a job or counter offer and staying at that employer. So that could be career suicide. So you've kind of already, breached the confidentiality or the trust. Whereas if you would just do it in the inverse and try and give your employer the right to improve the opportunity, if they can't, just let them know it might be time to take a move. And if you're going to go out and search, my point is be ready to take another opportunity and not to just leverage it to stay at your current employer. Because if you threaten to quit on me, and even if I do try to retain you because I need you, I'm going to be looking out the corner of my eye at you, and you will have violated my trust. So you may cost yourself an opportunity down the line.
Yeah, it's a passive aggressive activity, and it never ends well. I've seen it through all the years that I worked in HR. It's never, ever, ever a good strategy to do. And you're so much better just ripping the Band-Aid off, having the tough conversation, preparing in a professional manner for it, and really finding out where you stand with the employer. I do find many people though today that are coming to me to help them with their career marketing tools for other opportunities are not leaving because of money. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. So many people are not leaving, although many people are getting it, depending on the industry that you're in, depending on how well you negotiate, etc. But so many people are leaving for different opportunities. I think one of the exciting things that is happening is that people are stretching themselves and saying, there was something I wanted to do in my whole career, or something different. I really wanted to try this. But Jim, can we just talk just a minute about that? Because what about when people come to you and they say, well, I can do all kinds of things, or I think I want to do something different. Doesn't that place you in a little difficult situation if they're not really clear and they're not providing you that clarity to be able to help speak about them to an employer?
Yes, I've kind of heard a couple of points there and maybe a couple of questions. I don't know. So I want to circle back to the very first thing you said, that and historically it's been true that people's number one reason for leaving an opportunity isn't money.
Yeah.
And typically we found that people don't quit companies, they quit leaders. So a good leader can cover a lot of bads in an organization. A bad leader can ruin a lot of goods. But that has, unfortunately, money's really become a bigger uh, topic here since the job demand and since the labor shortage is really kind of so prevalent. So, when everybody started working remotely, especially for the workers that we recruit for, the white collar professional workers, a ton of IT workers in what we do, those people are mostly able to work remotely. And for the first time in my 25 years, I began seeing organizations from out of Buffalo recruit Buffalo talent and pay them big city money. So it creates an additional competition level for the Buffalo employers. So, if I can get paid $80,000 to work in this particular software development job in Buffalo, and a company from Boston comes along and tells me I can work in my living room and pays me $125,000 because that's what they pay in Boston, Massachusetts, it becomes difficult to say no. So unfortunately, I think that money's talking a bit more than it ever has. And that at least is one reason for it. It's not good. It's not healthy for Buffalo employers. Making a decision to move for money shouldn't be the basis of your decision, but it becomes difficult if there's so much more money on the table. And more of my employees are complaining about the loss of good employees over salaries that they can't compete with. It's causing a real issue. But back to your point about candidates coming to us and saying, I can do all these things. Yeah, that's not what we're in business for. Our clients come to us to find people not only who match culturally, but typically who have a very specific skill set. And, I'm sure there are, I think I could do a lot of things actually, right? I'm a pretty good cook. I'm a good fisherman, not a very good golfer, right? Good driver. And I'm pretty good at running a recruiting company. But, if I had a resume that had all that stuff on there and I came to somebody who wanted a job and say, hey man, I have an MBA, you can use me. That's not what employers want to hear. In fact, when they hear a candidate or job seeker who believes that, it's difficult to put them into a job. They have to see that the experiences and the wants, not only the experience, but what the candidate is looking for needs to match what they have. And if they don't see that, you don't stand a chance. What do you think 93% of the people aren't hearing anything back for, right? Their resumes and their approach, their follow-up are not targeted to the job that they're looking for. And also they're sending a crappy resume out to a bunch of people. Pray and spray, we call it. You spray your resume, you pray that somebody calls you back. And it's no wonder that a lot of people aren't getting anywhere in their job searches.
Yeah, I always say that the number one job tip that I give to people is clarity. Establish clarity in what you want and frame your skills and your experience towards that, because no one can help you if you're not clear about what you want. And people want to help. Recruiters want to help. Employers want to talk to you, but they're not going to go out of their way to put the pieces together. You have to tell them that cohesive story.
Yep. And your cohesive story everywhere, from your LinkedIn posting to your resume to your cover letter, if you do it, to your email follow-ups. Hopefully you're getting on the phone and calling these people you're sending resumes to. The message that you leave needs to be consistent and targeted. I couldn't agree anymore.
All right. Well, I think that's going to be the highlight of our call today, because I think that's such an important message. I see it every single day, and I know it's frustrating to job seekers, but they have to be able to put that effort in. That is really the gateway to job search success, is to be able to lay that foundation for everything else. Everything else springs from that clarity. And I love that you mentioned LinkedIn. Thank you for that. Jim, let me ask you a quick question. Are you on LinkedIn searching for candidates for the employers that are coming to you? Me
personally, no, I'm not. Sometimes my recruiters do.
Well, I mean, in your organization.
Well. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's the number one tool that's used by 80% of the recruiters rank that as the number one tool that they use. So yes.
Okay, and that's an important thing. I wanted to call that out because I want people to hear that. For everybody that has started their LinkedIn profile back 15 years ago when LinkedIn came out, and they said it and left it because they were what I call fat and happy in their jobs. The time to update your LinkedIn profile is not the day after you've left an organization. Get it updated, folks. Make sure it is a clear message. Make sure it is the best representation of your skill set. fully optimize your profile so that recruiters can find you for those great opportunities that you might be a perfect match for. It's always the time to get your LinkedIn profile updated, as well as activate your own network before you need it.
Yeah, and how do you target that, right? Right in that blank section that really is just an open tablet, you should put the keywords in that you hope that recruiters will find you with. So it's a little bit like search engine optimization, and whatever your skill sets are can come right from your resume. And then if they're not performing a confidential search, they should definitely mark their profile as open to opportunities, so that comes to, they have to be found, so they have to have the proper keywords. And then if they are open to opportunities, if they tag their profile, that will come to the top of that list and will be some of the first folks that recruiters will look for, whether they're an agency recruiter or a company recruiter.
Is that because you know that they are more available and more likely to respond back to you?
Yeah, there's so many people on LinkedIn now. You do a search and you come up with 500 people or 1,000 people with what you're looking for as a recruiter. Well, you know, if the ones that are indicating open opportunities are more thinking about open to moving. The other candidates, they may or may not be ready to move. So you burn a lot of calories, waste a lot of time trying to get in touch with people who you say are ghosting you, who aren't even interested in opportunities. So if you are open to opportunities and you don't need to have a confidential search, it is absolutely imperative that you tag your profile that way.
All right, Jim, for anybody that wants to reach out to the great folks at Systems Personnel and maybe wants to talk about opportunities and share their resume, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, here, I put it in there. It's Systems Personnel's job board. You want to bookmark this job board if you're good and if you're in the IT, finance, or HR field. systemspersonnel.com/search-jobs.
You got that, folks? Write that down. And we'll also drop that in the comments section for those of you that aren't paying full attention to this. But Jim's team wants to talk to you. They want to help you, but make sure your tools are in order. If you're not sure, get in touch with me and we can get you where you need to be. But great resource, folks. And Jim and his team really want to help. Jim, thank you so much for meeting with us today. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I think when you talk about having 25 years in the industry, you've seen it all from, the ebb and flow of what's happened here in the Buffalo job market. So I think it's so helpful to job seekers to have that history, that legacy in their corner, to be able to show them what's happening today, kind of talk through that information a little bit there and establish some perspective in their search.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for having me, Kathy.
Thank you. All right, folks, we're going to drop Jim's information in the chat. And if you have any questions, please put that in the comment section. We'll answer those. And if you want to talk to Jim privately or anybody on his team, you can always reach out and have that confidential conversation too. Thank you again, Jim, from Systems Personnel. We appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, and everyone else, till our next time, live inspired.